In the cold, gray sprawl of a city that never seemed to sleep under the flickering streetlights and neon haze, there was a boy. Thin, sharp-eyed, and quick-footed, his name was Eli. 16 years old, though the world had carved lines of 26 into his face. The streets were his home, cardboard shelters and rusted alleys his living room. Every night, he counted coins and dodged trouble. But on this night, everything would change. It was 11:23 p.m. when the black limousine screeched around the corner, tires screeching on rain-slick asphalt. The city was hushed in the aftermath of a sudden storm, puddles reflecting the broken skyline like pools of shattered glass. Eli was crouched beneath the awning of a boarded-up bakery, his stomach tight with hunger, when he saw it. The car that didn't belong in this part of town. Matte black, tinted windows, license plate worth more than Eli would see in his lifetime, and then the door flew open. A man stumbled out, clutching his chest, expensive suit ruined by rain, his face pale, lips blue. It didn't take a genius to see he was dying. A heart attack, maybe. Eli had seen death up close, too often, in the alleys, in the eyes of old drunks who passed in the night. But this man was different. People always said the rich didn't come down here. And if they did, it was to forget themselves or bury something deeper. But now one was here, gasping for air on the filthy curb. Eli hesitated. You don't get involved. That was rule 1 on the streets. Trouble wasn't yours unless it chased you down. But something tugged at him. A quiet voice, buried under years of hunger and fear. He stepped forward. The man's driver was nowhere in sight. No bodyguards, no entourage. Just Eli, the dying man, and the city holding its breath. "Hey!" Eli called out. No response. He crouched beside him. The man's eyes fluttered open. For a split second, their gazes locked. Something ancient stirred in Eli's chest, a sensation he couldn't place. "You got a hospital," the man rasped, barely audible. Eli's mind raced. The nearest hospital was 8 blocks away. No ambulance would make it in time, and no way was he calling the cops. Around here, police showed up last and left first. "I'll get you there," Eli muttered, half to himself. The man's hand clutched Eli's wrist, frail but insistent. And then, darkness. The man passed out. Eli wasn't a big kid, but desperation made him strong. He half dragged, half carried the man down the street, weaving through puddles and trash heaps, cursing every heavy breath. Every minute mattered. At 11:37 p.m., Eli burst through the emergency room doors of St. Mercy General, an overworked, underfunded hospital that served the city's forgotten. The nurse at the desk shot him a glare, about to shoo him away, until she saw the man in his arms. "Code Blue!" she screamed. In seconds, the room erupted into chaos. Doctors, nurses, a crash cart. They took the man, laid him out, and vanished behind double doors. Eli stood there, chest heaving, soaked to the bone. He didn't even know the man's name. "Sit there," a nurse ordered, pointing to a hard plastic chair. And then, silence. The clock on the wall ticked. 11:51 p.m. The hospital smelled like antiseptic and old coffee. Eli's clothes clung to him like a second skin. He stared at his hands, grime and blood mixing in the dim light. A doctor appeared, pale, tight-lipped. "We need a blood transfusion, now. AB negative, it's rare, we don't have it in stock." The nurse turned to Eli. "Do you know him, family, next of kin?" Eli shook his head. The doctor cursed under his breath. "Closest donor center is an hour away." Without thinking, Eli spoke. "I'm AB negative." The nurse blinked. "You sure, kid?" Eli nodded. He remembered it from a free clinic a year back. The doc had joked about how rare it was. They hooked him up, needle in his arm, blood flowing through tubes toward a man whose name he still didn't know. The nurse asked again, "Are you related?" "No," Eli whispered, but something inside him wasn't so sure. The transfusion lasted an hour. The night stretched thin, edges blurring. Eli fought to stay awake. The nurse scribbled notes. Machines beeped steadily. At 1:17 a.m., the doctor returned. "He's stable. You saved his life." Eli's head lolled against the chair. "Who is he?" The doctor hesitated. "You don't know?" Eli shook his head. The nurse leaned in, lowering her voice. "That's Victor Hale." The name meant nothing to Eli. The nurse gaped. "Victor Hale, billionaire, owns half the city, media empire, tech, real estate. You saved Victor Hale." Eli's pulse stuttered. Before he could process it, a woman in a sleek black suit appeared, ice in her eyes. She introduced herself as Evelyn Hart, personal assistant to Mr. Hale. She offered Eli a thick envelope. "Consider this, a thank you." Eli didn't even look inside. He pushed it away. "I don't want your money." A flicker of surprise crossed her face. "That wasn't the script. Mr. Hale would like to meet you when he recovers," she said. "You should leave a number." Eli didn't have a number. He didn't have a home. He wrote the name of the park where he usually crashed at night, Hearts. Lips twitched, half disdain, half intrigue. They let him leave at dawn. The city still wet with last night's rain. Eli's body ached, his blood thin. He didn't know why he'd done it. Maybe because no one else would. Maybe because in, that moment, the man's eyes had seemed familiar. Days passed. No word. Eli returned to his routine, sleeping in alleyways, hustling for spare change. But something had shifted. He started noticing cars parked where they never had before. Men in suits, pretending to be casual. People watching. On the third day, a black car waited by the curb near his park bench. "Eli," a voice called. It was Hart. "Mr. Hale's awake. He wants to see you." Every instinct screamed to run. But curiosity outweighed fear. He slid into the car. The ride was silent. The city passed by like a ghost town. They drove out of Eli's world, across bridges and boulevards into a different universe. Glass towers and manicured gardens. The Hale estate sat like a modern castle. Security gates rising around it. Inside, marble floors, glistening chandeliers. The air tasted clean. They led Eli to a room, dimly lit. A man sat in a high-backed chair by the window. Victor Hale. His face was paler than before, eyes sunken, but there was power in his posture. Decades of command. "You?" Hale rasped. "You saved my life?" Eli shrugged. "Anyone would have." "No," Hale said quietly. "They wouldn't." For a moment, neither spoke. The storm outside pressed against the windows. Hale gestured to a chair. "I owe you. Name it." Eli hesitated. "I don't want anything." Hale studied him. "Everyone wants something, and then a strange question. Your mother. What was her name?" Eli's gut clenched. "Why?" Humor an old man. Eli's voice was tight. Marissa Wynne." The blood drained from Hale's face. The room tilted. "That's impossible." Eli stood. "Why? You know her?" Hale's hands trembled. She worked for me. A long time ago." The door burst open. Evelyn. Hart entered, phone in hand. "Sir, the lab results are in." Hale's eyes darted to Eli. "What results?" Hart hesitated. "The DNA, the blood transfusion, matched. It's conclusive." Eli's pulse thundered. "What are you talking about?" he demanded. Hart's voice was tight. "He's your son." The words hung there, heavy, suffocating. Eli stumbled back. No, you're lying." But Hale was already weeping. Not the tears of a powerful man, but those of someone who'd lost something long ago and just now realized. I didn't know, he whispered. I swear to God I didn't know. Eli's vision blurred. The room felt too small. You left her, Ellie spat. She died when I was 7, in a shelter. I've been out here alone. I didn't know, Hale repeated, broken. And then, a new voice, from the doorway. He's not the only one. A woman stepped forward, blonde, ice-cold, Evelyn Hart. The room felt like it had collapsed in on itself, as if the walls had inched closer the moment those words were spoken. Eli's ears rang, his chest heaving like he'd run a marathon, but his feet wouldn't move. He was frozen between past and present, between the father he never knew and the stranger now pointing a gun, Evelyn Hart, the woman who'd smiled like ice, who had picked him up in that car just hours ago. Now her hand was steady, the black pistol gleaming under the soft chandelier light aimed directly at Victor Hale's chest. I told you, she hissed. I told you, you couldn't bury everything. Victor Hale didn't flinch. For a man who'd almost died days earlier, his voice was steady, like steel. Put it down, Evelyn. Eli's gaze darted between them. What? What is happening? You should have stayed in the alley, kid, Evelyn spat, her eyes sharp and wild now, nothing like the cold assistant she'd pretended to be. You had one job, disappear. But you had to get curious. Victor took a ragged breath. Evelyn, don't do this. Do what? She sneered. Finish what you started? Clean up your mess? Eli's mind was spinning. He wasn't a stranger to danger. The streets had taught him early how fast a situation could turn. But this was something else. A billionaire father he'd never known, a woman with a gun, and a secret thicker than the marble walls around them. Mess! Eli barked. What mess? What are you talking about? Evelyn's jaw clenched. She motioned for him to stay quiet, the gun twitching toward him for a moment. You want to know? Fine. You're owed that much. She took a step closer, eyes burning. Your mother, Marissa. She wasn't just some random girl working in the mailroom. She was Hale's mistress, his dirty little secret, promised her the world, then dumped her the second his wife found out, paid her off, threatened her, made her disappear. She wasn't supposed to come back. Victor's face crumbled. I didn't threaten her. I didn't know she was pregnant. Didn't you? Evelyn snapped. Or did you just not care? Eli's stomach turned. The mother he'd barely remembered. He could still hear her humming old songs on cold nights, wrapping him in thin blankets, making games out of hunger. The image of her now, terrified and alone, hiding from men like Victor Hale. It burned. Behind his eyes. And you, Eli shot at Evelyn, voice sharp. Why do you care? A bitter smile tugged at her lips. Because, darling, your mother was my sister. The words punched the air from his lungs. Time seemed to buckle, as if reality itself refused to hold shape. Eli felt the ground tilt beneath him. What? That's right, Evelyn said, her voice shaking now, heavy with a venom that had waited years to be spilled. Marissa Wynne was my little sister, and she trusted me, told me everything, the promises he made, the threats, how she ran, how she lived like a ghost for years, so his people wouldn't find her. Victor's throat worked, the color draining from his face. Evelyn, I didn't order any— Liar! She screamed, her voice raw. She called me the night before she died, said someone had followed her, a man in a suit. One of yours. Eli's. Mind reeled. His mother's restless nights, the way she used to double-bolt the shelter door, how she never told him who his father was. It all made sick, perfect sense. I tried to find you after. Evelyn's voice cracked. But you were gone. System chewed you up, spat you onto the streets, and he went on with his empire like nothing happened. Tears stung Eli's eyes, hot and unfamiliar. He hated crying. It made you weak on the streets. But now, the fury, grief, and betrayal poured out like a dam breaking. Victor reached out a trembling hand. "Eli, please. I didn't know. I swear it." Eli swatted it away. "You abandoned her," Eli rasped. "You left us both to rot." The air was suffocating. Evelyn tightened her grip on the gun, teeth gritted. "I waited for the right time. And then, 3 days ago, you almost died. I thought fate finally did it for me. But then this kid saved you," she sneered at Eli. "And now you find out he's your son. The final irony." Victor straightened, some of the old power surging back into his voice. "If you're going to do it, Evelyn, do it, but don't drag the boy into this." Eli's head snapped toward him. "Boy, I have a name." Victor's jaw clenched. "Eli." The name sounded different from him. Like a confession. Evelyn raised the gun. "You think you can still control the room, Victor? That after everything, after Marissa, you get to dictate how this ends?" Then a sound. A soft click. From behind her. "Drop it." A man in a black suit. One of Hale's personal security team. The gun was trained on Evelyn's head. Eli hadn't even heard him enter. Evelyn didn't flinch. "Shoot me, and I'll pull the trigger," she said, eyes never leaving Victor. The guard hesitated. Victor's voice cut through the room like a razor. "Stand down!" The guard's expression faltered. "Sir," I said, "stand down." Reluctantly, the man lowered his weapon, but his stance remained tense. Ready, Victor turned to Evelyn. "You came here to end me. So do it, but leave the boy out of this." The words struck something deep in Eli, a complex storm of hate and longing he couldn't untangle. Evelyn's hand shook, the weight of years crashing down. Then, tears. For the first time, Eli saw her falter. The gun wavered. She choked out, "I should. God help me, I should." Victor didn't move. Neither did Eli. "I loved her too," Evelyn whispered, breaking. "She was my baby sister, and I failed her." The gun clattered to the floor. For a long, suffocating moment, the room was still. The storm outside battered the windows. Somewhere, deep in the mansion, a clock struck midnight. Victor exhaled. "Get her out of here," he told the guard. The man hesitated, then led a trembling Evelyn from the room. She didn't resist. Didn't look back. Then it was just Eli and Victor. Neither spoke. Finally, Victor broke the silence. "I deserve every ounce of your hate." Eli's jaw clenched. "Good, 'cause you've got a lifetime's worth coming." Victor gave a grim, humorless smile. "I don't expect forgiveness. I can't fix what I did to your mother, or what happened to you. But I can give you one thing I should have given you a long time ago." Eli crossed his arms. "What's that?" Victor's voice lowered. "The truth." He gestured to a drawer beside him. "There's a file in there. Everything. What happened to Marissa? What really happened?" Eli's pulse quickened. Every instinct screamed not to trust him. But another voice, quieter, crueler, whispered, "You need to know." He moved to the drawer, pulled out a thick, leather-bound file. Inside were photographs, letters, records, and at the very top, a single faded picture, a young woman, smiling, his mother. Eli's throat closed up. Victor's voice was raw. "I never stopped loving her, but I was a coward. I let the company, the board, my wife, all of it, dictate my life. And by the time I realized what I'd done, it was too late." Eli flipped through pages of names, dates, surveillance reports. Men who followed his mother. A note. Order from MS to remove the liability. Eli's blood ran cold. "Who's MS?" Victor's face darkened. "My business partner, Malcolm Shaw." Eli's mind reeled. the billionaire industrialist, Victor's oldest friend, godfather to his empire. Victor's voice dropped to a whisper. He's the one who ordered the hit. Eli's world tilted again, and in that moment he realized the nightmare wasn't over. It was just beginning. The storm outside had slowed to a steady, relentless drizzle, but inside that room, a different storm brewed, silent, thick, and lethal. Eli's fingers trembled as he thumbed through the file, each page slicing a little deeper into the fragile idea he had of the world, of his past, of himself. Victor Hale sat slumped in the high-backed leather chair like a man centuries older than he looked, his sharp edges dulled by grief and guilt. The room smelled of old wood, expensive whiskey, and a lifetime of bad decisions. "Malcolm, Shaw," Eli muttered, his voice rough as gravel. "Your best friend." Victor didn't look up. "My worst mistake." On the streets, Eli had learned not to trust men in suits. They smiled too easily, spoke too slowly, their words carefully calculated to say nothing while taking everything. Malcolm Shaw was the prototype. Victor's longtime business partner, a man with a reputation cleaner than a saint's record, but a heart black as midnight. "Why would he care about my mother?" Eli asked. Victor's jaw tensed. "Because she was leverage." Eli stiffened. Leverage for what? A heavy pause. Victor finally looked up, his eyes hollow. "Marissa knew things about the company, about the money laundering, the offshore accounts, the people we paid off to keep the empire untouchable. She was never meant to be in those rooms. But she was smart. She heard things. And one night, she confronted me about it." Eli's stomach tightened. Victor's voice cracked. "I promised her I'd fix it, leave them behind, but I was weak. Malcolm found out. And when she left, when she disappeared with you, she became a loose end." Eli's fists clenched around the file. "And you let him—" "I didn't know," Victor interrupted, his voice thick with regret. "I swear to you, Eli, I didn't know what he'd done until it was too late." Eli's teeth ground together. "And now you're telling me because—" "Because," Victor whispered, "he won't stop with your mother. Or Evelyn. Or me. Now that you're in the picture, you're a problem too." A chill spidered down Eli's spine. "You mean he's still—" "He doesn't know who you are yet," Victor said. "But he will. And when he does, he'll come for you." The words sat in the air like a death sentence. Victor stood, slow and unsteady, walking to the corner cabinet. He opened it, pulling out a small, unmarked box. Inside, a sleek black flash drive. "This," he said, holding it. "Out is everything. Proof of what Malcolm did, what we did. Bank records, names, orders. The night your mother died." Eli took it, the tiny device heavier than it should have been. "Why give it to me?" he asked. Victor's voice lowered. "Because if I disappear before I can use it, you'll need to finish this." Eli swallowed hard. The kid who'd once scrounged for food in back alleys was now standing in the middle of a war between billionaires, a target painted across his back. "You expect me to trust you now?" Victor smiled faintly. "No. I expect you to survive." Buzz shattered the tension. Victor's phone vibrating furiously on the desk. The screen lit up with a single word. Malcolm Victor's face paled. "He knows." Eli's pulse pounded. The room felt like it tilted on its axis. Victor grabbed the phone, his voice tight. "Get my car ready. Now." To Eli, he said, "We don't have time. We have to move." Before Eli could speak, a gunshot cracked through the mansion. The glass cabinet behind Victor exploded, shards spraying like deadly confetti. "Down!" Victor barked, shoving Eli behind the desk. Another shot, then another. Chaos. Men in suits burst into the room. Victor's security team, guns drawn, yelling into earpieces. The house alarm wailed, a shrill, haunting sound that made Eli's teeth ache. "Secure the north wing!" someone shouted. Victor, grabbed Eli's arm. "We're leaving now." They sprinted through the hallway, past priceless paintings and heavy oak doors. The place felt less like a home now, and more like a fortress under siege. Outside, the rain was relentless, turning, the marble steps slick. A sleek black car screeched to a stop at the front, a driver flinging the door open. Victor shoved Eli inside, diving in after him. "Tanglewood Estate," Victor barked. "Now!" The driver hit the gas, the car fishtailing on the wet gravel. Before tearing down the long, tree-lined driveway, Eli's breath came ragged. "Tanglewood?" Victor didn't look at him. "It's safe." Eli wasn't convinced. "Who were those guys?" he asked. Victor's jaw clenched. "Malcolm's men. The second he knew you existed, he put a price on your head." "Why not just kill you, too?" Victor gave a bitter laugh. "He's tried. Problem is, I built the company's skeleton. I'd die, half his empire comes crashing down, but if I vanish quietly, no questions asked, he gets everything." Eli's stomach churned. "And me?" Victor's eyes darkened. "A liability." The car careened onto a narrow road flanked by towering trees. Rain hammered the windshield, wipers struggling to keep up. Eli's mind raced. The flash drive burned. A hole in his pocket, proof of murder, corruption, betrayal, everything. "I should have left you to die," Eli muttered. Victor didn't argue. Another phone buzz. Victor answered it, his voice sharp. "Talk to me." A tense beat. His face blanched. "What? When?" Eli's stomach dropped. "What now?" Victor hung up. His hand shook slightly. "They got Evelyn." Eli's heart seized. "What do you mean they got her?" Victor ran a hand down his face. "She never made it out of the mansion. My guy found her. Dead." The words hung in the car like a curse. Eli's pulse pounded in his ears. "She was trying to protect me," he rasped. "And you dragged her back into this." Victor's face twisted. "I never meant—" Eli cut him off. "You never meant to do a lot of things, but here we are." A brutal silence fell. The driver swerved onto a dirt path barely visible in the rain. Branches scraped the sides of the car like claws. Victor finally spoke. "Listen, Tanglewood isn't just a safe house. It's where I kept everything they couldn't find. Ledgers, tapes, records." He looked at Eli, something fierce in his eyes. "It's your leverage now." Eli frowned. "I don't want your blood money." Victor's voice dropped. "It's not about money anymore. It's about survival." The car stopped in front of a sprawling, abandoned estate. Weeds strangled the stone walls, windows boarded up. Nature reclaiming the place. Victor opened his door. "Come on." Eli hesitated. Part of him wanted to bolt, disappear, go back to the streets, the alleys, the only world he ever knew. But Evelyn's face flashed in his mind, and his mother's. And that single damning photo. He followed. Inside, the air smelled of dust and rot. The floorboards groaned underfoot. Victor led him through a maze of narrow hallways, stopping at a faded library door. He pushed it open. Inside, a single desk, a laptop, stacks of files, a small, blinking security system still alive despite the decay. Victor powered up the computer. "This," he said, "is the kill switch. It sends everything. The files on Malcolm, the embezzlement, the contracts, to the press, the feds, the board." Eli eyed the keyboard. "So why haven't you hit send?" Victor's face was a storm. "Because the second this goes out, a lot of innocent people burn too. Employees, families, people who don't deserve it." Eli swallowed hard. "And now you want me to make that call?" Victor stared at him. "I want you to finish what your mother started." Eli's hands trembled. For the first time in his life, power was in reach. Real power. The kind that could bring monsters down. The kind that could burn empires to ash. His mother's voice echoed in his memory. "You're worth more than the world tells you, Eli." He looked up at Victor. "You're a coward." Victor didn't argue. Eli took a breath and moved to the desk. His fingers hovered over the keyboard. It was time to decide. The cursor on the screen blinked like a tiny heartbeat, pulsing in time with the storm battering against the Forgotten Estate's windows. Eli's hands hovered above the keyboard. The cold metal of the flash drive in his pocket felt like a weight tied to his soul. One click, and everything changed. Not just for him, not just for Victor, but for thousands of people whose lives spun in the shadow of Hale Industries. Victor watched from the other side of the room, his face hollow, gaunt in the dim light. The man who once controlled cities now looked like a ghost inside his own past. Eli swallowed. "You knew my mother was dead long before today, didn't you?" Victor didn't deny it. He just lowered his eyes. "I suspected. I spent years looking." But Malcolm made sure no trace was left. Eli's jaw clenched so hard it ached. The storm outside rattled the decayed shutters. "And you think one file dump makes it right?" Victor looked up then. His gaze was steady, but lined with old grief. "Nothing makes it right, but it might stop the next kid from growing up like you." Eli almost laughed at the hypocrisy. But deep down, buried beneath the rage and the broken pieces of a stolen childhood, a cold, bitter truth gnawed at him. Victor wasn't wrong. A phone buzzed again. The burner Victor carried vibrated across the dusty desk. He snatched it up, answering without hesitation. "Yeah." A pause. Victor's face drained of color. "What?" Another pause. Then a sharp, whispered curse. He hung up, turning to Eli. "They're here." Eli's blood ran cold. "How?" Victor shook his head. "Someone must have followed us from the mansion." As if on cue, headlights cut through the thick mist outside. At least 3 black SUVs rolled up the winding driveway, moving like wolves circling prey. Eli's heart pounded. "I'm not dying in this rotting house," he snarled, grabbing the flash drive. Victor grabbed a pistol from a drawer. "Then, we fight." It wasn't heroic, it wasn't noble, it was survival. They moved through the dark hallways, the house groaning around them like it knew what was coming. Rain hammered the roof, footsteps echoing on the gravel outside. Eli could hear his pulse in his ears. Victor handed him a second weapon, a sleek, compact pistol. "You ever use one?" Eli shook his head. "But I've fought for my life every day since I could walk. I'll figure it out." Victor smirked, a flicker of the old billionaire arrogance bleeding through. "That's my son." A crack of gunfire shattered the window. Eli hit the floor as glass exploded above him. "They're not waiting," Victor spat, crawling to a side door. "More shots!" Heavy boots thudded across the porch. Victor's security system sputtered and died, a coordinated surgical breach. "Back entrance," Victor ordered. "Now." They bolted through a narrow hallway, kicking open a side door. Cold rain slashed across Eli's face as they darted into the overgrown garden. Vines and gnarled trees made a natural shield, but shadows moved through the storm. A bullet splintered the trunk beside Eli's head. He ducked, adrenaline pumping ice through his veins. Victor fired 2 quick shots. One of the shadows dropped with a grunt. "Go!" Victor shouted. "I'll hold him." But Eli didn't move. His fingers clenched the flash drive tighter. "No, I'm done running." Victor's eyes flashed. "You'll die." "I died a long time ago." And then, from behind them, another voice. "You're both already dead." Malcolm Shaw stepped through the rain like a phantom, drenched, unruffled, a pistol steady in his hand. Behind him, more men fanned out, forming a noose. His smirk was pure venom. "Family reunion. Shame it has to end like this." Victor raised his weapon. "You'll burn for this." Malcolm laughed. "You've said that before. And yet, here I am, alive and richer than God." Eli stepped forward, rain slicking his hair to his face. His voice was steady. "You killed my mother." Malcolm tilted his head, mock curiosity flickering in his eyes. "And you'd be..." Your worst nightmare. Malcolm's smirk twisted. You've got her eyes. I should have finished the job back then. Victor moved to shield Eli, but Malcolm lifted his pistol higher. Drop it, Hale. Or your bastard dies first. For a heartbeat? No one moved. Eli's grip tightened around the gun in his hand. His pulse roared in his ears. The rain felt like needles on his skin. Then Victor lowered his weapon, a sharp, cutting grin from Malcolm. See? Same old Victor, always folding when it matters, he gestured to his men. Kill them! Time slowed. A shot rang out. Malcolm's eyes widened, a crimson bloom blossoming at his chest. He staggered, shocked, the gun slipping from his fingers. Behind him, Evelyn, alive, soaked, bruised, eyes burning like wildfire, the pistol in her hand still smoking. Couldn't let you have the last word, you snake, she spat. Victor moved fast, firing at Malcolm's men. Chaos erupted, bullets slicing the night. Eli ducked, rolled, took down one with a desperate shot. Evelyn dropped another. The remaining men panicked, retreating under the unexpected assault. Malcolm crumpled to his knees, blood spilling between his fingers. He looked up at Eli, a cruel smile still on his face, even as life drained from his eyes. You think this ends it? Eli knelt, the gun steady. No, but it's a start. He squeezed the trigger. Malcolm's body slumped into the mud. Silence fell. Only the rain spoke. Evelyn dropped her weapon, stumbling. Victor caught her. I thought I never stayed dead, she managed, before collapsing against him. Eli's heart pounded. He looked down at Malcolm's body, then at Victor. No more secrets. Victor nodded. It's over. But Eli shook his head. Not yet. He pulled the flash drive from his pocket. I'm sending it. Victor hesitated. You know what? That means. Eli met his gaze. They'll come for me, for all of us. But I won't let this rot keep spreading. Evelyn lifted her head, her voice rough. Do it. Eli moved back to the house, back to that flickering laptop. Blood and rain mixed on the keyboard as he plugged the drive in. He opened the file, a single command, send to all. His finger hovered over the enter key. Then he pressed it. The files streamed out to newsrooms, law enforcement, government agencies. Names, dates, crimes, proof. In that instant, the Hale Empire cracked. He watched it happen. The house trembled like it sensed the end. Victor stepped beside him. No words, just a long, steady look, a quiet surrender. You did what I never could, Victor whispered. Eli's voice was steel. I'm not you. Evelyn's weak laugh came from the doorway. Thank God for that. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Eli rose. What now? Evelyn asked. Eli's gaze didn't waver. We bury the dead, and we build something better. He turned to Victor. You coming? Victor hesitated, then nodded, because redemption didn't come easy, and sometimes you had to bleed for it. The rain had ceased, leaving behind a silence so profound it felt like the world was holding its breath. Eli stood amidst the remnants of chaos, the weight of the flash drive in his pocket a stark reminder of the storm they'd weathered. The estate, once a symbol of opulence, now bore the scars of betrayal and redemption. Victor Hale, the man who had once been a titan of industry, now sat quietly, his gaze fixed on the horizon. The revelation of Eli's lineage had shaken him, but it was the boy's unwavering resolve that had truly left an indelible mark. Evelyn, ever the enigma, leaned against the doorway, her eyes reflecting a mix of pain and pride. She had returned from the shadows, not just to settle old scores, but to witness the dawn of a new era. The world outside buzzed with the fallout of the exposed secrets, News outlets clamored for statements, while the public grappled with the magnitude of the revelations. Protests erupted, demanding accountability, and the once untouchable Hale Industries found itself under intense scrutiny. Eli, however, remained focused. He knew that dismantling a corrupt empire was only the beginning. The real challenge lay in rebuilding trust and forging a path forward. With Victor's guidance, he began to navigate the intricate web of corporate politics. Together, they initiated reforms, prioritizing transparency and ethical practices. Employees, once silenced by fear, found their voices, and a culture of openness began to take root. Evelyn took charge of community outreach, ensuring that the company's newfound wealth was channeled into meaningful initiatives. Schools were built, healthcare programs established, and opportunities created for those who had long been marginalized. As weeks turned into months, the transformation was palpable. The Hale name, once synonymous with greed, began to symbolize hope and resilience. Yet, amidst the progress, Eli grappled with personal demons. The revelation of his parentage had opened old wounds, and the weight of responsibility often felt overwhelming. But with each challenge, he grew stronger, drawing strength from the very people he aimed to uplift. Victor, too, underwent a metamorphosis. No longer the aloof magnate, he became a mentor, guiding Eli with wisdom tempered by humility. Their relationship, once strained by secrets, blossomed into a bond forged in truth and mutual respect. Evelyn, ever the pillar, remained a steadfast presence. Her unwavering belief in Eli served as a beacon, reminding him of the journey they'd undertaken and the lives they'd touched. As the anniversary of the expose approached, the trio stood together, reflecting on the path they'd carved. The estate, now a hub of innovation and community engagement, stood as a testament to their collective efforts. Eli addressed a gathering of employees, stakeholders, and community members. His voice, once uncertain, now resonated with conviction. "A year ago we faced a reckoning," he began. "But from the ashes of our past, we've built a future rooted in integrity and compassion. This is just the beginning." The crowd erupted in applause, a chorus of affirmation echoing through the halls. As the sun set, casting a golden hue over the estate, Eli, Victor, and Evelyn stood side by side, united by a shared purpose and an unbreakable bond. In the distance, the world watched, inspired by a story of redemption, resilience, and the transformative power of truth. The end. Hope you enjoyed watching. This is your narrator, Mr. Gasty. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. See you in the next video.